Hey everyone, ready to tackle a topic that can feel kind of overwhelming, especially if you're not exactly swimming in cash.
You mean saving and investing when you're not making bank?
Exactly. We're diving deep into an episode of Money Moves with John and Emily. It's actually called Smart Saving and Investing on a Low Salary to pull out the best tips they shared.
Sounds good to me.
You ready to see how surprisingly effective even small steps can be?
Oh, absolutely. One thing that really struck me was how John and Emily emphasized like a mindset shift right off the bat, even before getting to specific tactics.
Okay, so let's unpack that. What exactly do they mean by a mindset shift?
They talk about moving from a scarcity mindset where you're always focused on what you don't have to one of opportunity. It's recognizing that even with limited income, possibilities still exist.
I can definitely see how that mental shift is so crucial, but it's easier said than done,
hmm
right? Especially when you're really feeling the pinch of a tight budget.
Right. It's not about pretending like financial limitations don't exist. It's more about choosing where you focus your energy. John actually shared this really relatable anecdote about how he used to think saving just $10 a month was completely pointless.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. So what made him change his perspective?
Well, he realized that dismissing small amounts like that completely ignored the power of compound interest. That $10 a month, if invested consistently, could actually snowball into a pretty significant sum over time. It was like this aha moment for him where he realized consistency actually trumps having some huge starting amount.
So it's not about waiting until you have a ton of money to start. It's about starting small and letting time do its thing.
Yeah.
That actually feels really empowering.
Exactly. It's about taking control no matter your income level. Speaking of taking control, they introduced the 50-30-20 rule as a framework for budgeting. Basically, you allocate 50% of your income towards needs, 30 towards wants, and then 20% towards savings or debt repayment.
That sounds like a solid guideline,
Yeah.
but is hitting that 20% savings target even realistic on a lower income?
That's a great question. And to be honest, they acknowledge that 20% might be a stretch for some people. What's important is the principle of prioritizing saving, even if you start with like 5% or less. It's about forming the habit and then gradually increasing that percentage as your income grows.
So progress over perfection, which makes it feel a little less daunting. What are some of those actionable strategies they recommend to actually make those savings happen?
Emily offered some great practical tips like swapping expensive takeout for home cooked meals maybe a few times a week or canceling those unused subscriptions. She actually saved $20 a month just by doing that. Even finding a cheaper phone plan can make a difference.
Yeah, those are some pretty achievable changes. It sounds like they're all about finding those small, manageable tweaks that can add up over time.
Absolutely. And they also really emphasize the importance of automation. So, setting up a separate savings account and having even a small amount automatically transferred from each paycheck, it kind of takes the effort out of saving.
Yeah, I love that out of sight, out of mind approach.
Yeah.
What about when you get unexpected income, like a tax refund or maybe a little side hustle money?
Found money, as they call it, their advice. Allocate it straight to savings. It's a fantastic way to boost your savings without really impacting your regular budget.
Okay, that's a great strategy. So we've covered the mindset shift and some practical saving strategies, but let's face it, the word investing can still feel pretty intimidating, especially when you're not working with a lot of capital.
Absolutely, and this is where John and Emily really debunk the myth that investing is only for the wealthy. They introduced the concept of micro-investing through apps like Acorns and Stash, which let you start with as little as $5.
$5, that's less than my morning coffee. So how do these micro investing apps even work?
They basically operate on a roundup system. Let's say you buy that coffee for $4.50. The app will round up your purchase to $5 and invest that extra 50 cents. It might seem minuscule, but these small amounts can accumulate surprisingly fast.
Wow, that's pretty clever. So even if you're not ready to make big investment moves, these apps make it super easy to just get started. But what about when you want to go beyond spare change and actually start building a portfolio?
That's where index funds come in. They're a great option for both beginner investors and those with, limited funds, and John and Emily are big proponents of them.
Speaking of making your money work harder, let's dive into investing. Why are index funds so appealing, particularly for someone just starting out?
Well, index funds are basically baskets of stocks that track a specific market index, like the S&P 500. So this means you're instantly diversified because your investment is spread across a variety of companies, which reduces risk compared to like picking individual stocks.
Okay, diversification makes sense. But what about the cost of actually getting into these index funds?
This is where it gets even better. Platforms like Vanguard or Fidelity often allow you to buy into index funds for as little as $1, thanks to fractional shares.
So even with a limited budget, index funds are accessible.
Absolutely. And remember that $10 a month we talked about earlier? John and Emily gave an example showing that just $20 invested monthly, assuming a 7% average return, could grow to over $10,000 in 20 years. That's the power of index funds combined with those consistent contributions.
Wow, that's a really powerful illustration of how those small, consistent investments can really add up. But let's be realistic. Managing money on a tight budget can feel super overwhelming. How do they suggest someone actually put all this advice into practice?
They break down a hypothetical scenario of someone earning $2,000 a month after taxes.
Okay, let's break down that scenario. How would they suggest allocating that $2,000?
They recommend aiming for that 50-30-20 rule, so $1,000 for needs, $600 for wants, and $400 for savings and investing.
I can already hear some listeners saying, $400 for savings and investing. That's impossible for me right now. What did John and Emily say to that?
They emphasize flexibility. Even starting with $50, split between a high-yield savings account and an index fund is a positive step. What matters is building that habit.
That's a relief to hear.
Mm.
It's about finding what's doable and building from there. They also mentioned side hustles as a way to boost that savings potential, right?
Exactly. Something as simple as dog walking or freelance work can add a surprising amount to your savings each month.
That's a good point. Okay, so we've explored kind of the nuts and bolts of saving and investing on a lower income, but John and Emily also touched on the psychological aspect of it all, which I think is just as important.
Oh, absolutely. They talked about how people on lower incomes can sometimes fall into this trap of thinking, what's the point? My contributions won't even make a dent.
I've definitely felt that way. It's easy to get discouraged when you're comparing your financial situation to others.
That's where their emphasis on shifting to an opportunity mindset is so crucial. Even small contributions made consistently can have a huge impact over time. It's about taking ownership of your financial journey.
That feeling of agency is so important, especially when you're facing financial limitations. It's about proving to yourself that you can make smart choices and build a better future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they debunk this idea that you need to make these drastic sacrifices to succeed. Small, sustainable changes are key.
Like those practical tips Emily shared.
Right. Cooking at home more often, being mindful of those subscriptions, and even negotiating a better rate on your phone plan can free up way more money than you might expect. It's not about deprivation, it's about being intentional.
I love that reframing.
Hmm.
It's not about denying yourself. It's about making choices that align with your financial goals.
Another psychological hurdle they address is the fear of investing, particularly the fear of losing money.
That fear is totally understandable, especially if you're working with limited funds. What do they say about navigating that fear?
They emphasize the importance of education and a long-term perspective, taking the time to really understand different investment options, choosing investments that align with your risk tolerance, and remembering that the market has ups and downs are crucial.
So it's about informed decision-making and patience. They also seem to be huge advocates for index funds. What makes index funds less risky than, say, trying to pick individual stocks?
Index funds, remember, are those baskets of stocks tracking a particular market index. So you're instantly diversified, spreading your risk across numerous companies rather than betting on just a few.
Right, diversification. That makes a lot of sense. But what about those of us who want a bit more control over our investments? Are index funds still a good option?
They are, but it's crucial to understand that they're designed for passive long-term growth. If you're looking for more active trading or want to focus on specific sectors, other investment approaches might be a better fit.
So know yourself and your investment style before jumping in. It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. John and Emily repeatedly stress that financial success is not about getting rich quick. It's about developing healthy habits and making consistent progress.
So, slow and steady wins the race, even in the world of investing. Did they offer any specific advice for maintaining that consistency over time?
They highlighted the power of automation, which we've talked about. Setting up automatic transfers to your savings or investment accounts really removes that decision-making burden, making it easier to stay on track.
Yeah, automation really does take the emotion out of it. You're not tempted to spend that money because it's already working towards your goals.
They also encourage listeners to regularly review and adjust their budgets and investment strategies as needed. Life changes, goals evolve, and your financial plan should reflect that.
That's a great point. It's not about setting it and forgetting it. It's about staying engaged and adapting as needed. Did they offer any suggestions for those who might be feeling overwhelmed by all of this information?
They emphasize that it's okay to start small and seek guidance. Even small changes can have a big impact over time, and resources like financial advisors or even online communities can provide support and direction.
I love that reminder that you don't have to figure it all out on your own. There are resources and people who can help.
Exactly. They also emphasize the importance of celebrating those small wins. It's not just about reaching some huge savings goal, it's about acknowledging those incremental steps along the way.
Those small victories are crucial for staying motivated and building momentum, especially when the journey feels long. It's about recognizing your progress and giving yourself credit for the effort you're putting in.
Absolutely. And they ended with a powerful message. No matter your current financial situation, building wealth is possible. It starts with a shift in mindset, a commitment to learning, and a willingness to take action, even if it's just one small step at a time.
That's a great reminder that it's never too late to start. Even small, consistent actions can compound over time and lead to really significant results. They also mentioned side hustles as a way to accelerate that progress.
Yes. Side hustles can be a fantastic way to boost your income, gain new skills, and achieve your financial goals faster. But choosing the right side hustle for you is important. They caution against just jumping into anything that sounds trendy.
Okay, so side hustles are a potential tool, but they require some thoughtful consideration. What did they suggest people keep in mind when exploring side hustle options?
They emphasize the importance of aligning your side hustle with your interests and skills. This makes it more likely that you'll enjoy the work and stick with it.
That makes sense. If you're passionate about what you're doing, it won't feel like a chore.
Yeah.
Did they offer any specific side hustle ideas?
They provided a range of examples, from creative pursuits like freelance writing or crafting to service-based options like pet sitting or dog walking. They also highlighted the potential of online platforms for sharing your skills and expertise, like teaching online courses or offering virtual assistant services.
It sounds like there's really something for everyone, regardless of your interests or skill set. But starting a side hustle can feel pretty daunting, especially on top of an already busy life. Did they address that challenge?
They emphasize the importance of starting small and scaling gradually. You don't need to quit your day job or invest a ton of money up front. Start with a few hours a week and build from there.
So it's about finding a balance that works for you and gradually incorporating the side hustle into your routine. But what about the financial side of things? Did they offer any advice on managing the income from a side hustle?
Absolutely. They recommended treating your side hustle income like any other source of income, meaning budgeting for it, tracking expenses, and of course, putting a portion towards savings and investments.
So it's not just about earning extra money, it's about managing that money wisely and aligning it with your overall financial goals.
Exactly. They also emphasize the importance of separating your side hustle finances from your personal finances. This can make it easier to track income and expenses and ensure you're not overspending.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if you're using the side hustle income to accelerate your savings or investment goals. Did they offer any specific tips for separating those finances?
They suggested opening a separate bank account specifically for your side hustle. This allows you to clearly see how much money you're bringing in and how you're spending it. It can also simplify tax time.
That's a smart move. It keeps everything organized and makes it easier to track your progress. It sounds like John and Emily covered a lot of ground in this episode, from mindset shifts to practical tips for saving and investing to the ins and outs of side hustles. Did they offer any overarching advice for navigating the journey of building wealth on a lower income?
They emphasize that building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about patience, consistency, and making choices that align with your long-term goals.
So don't get discouraged by slow progress or compare your journey to others. Stay focused on your own path.
Exactly. And they also reminded listeners that they don't have to figure it all out on their own. Resources like financial advisors, online communities, and even educational podcasts like the one we're dissecting can provide valuable support and guidance.
That's a great point. There's a wealth of information and support available for those who are willing to seek it out. Okay, so we've covered the key takeaways from John and Emily's episode. What stands out to you as the most valuable piece of advice?
For me, It's their emphasis on shifting from a scarcity mindset to one of opportunity. That mental shift is fundamental to building wealth, regardless of your income level. It's about recognizing your power to make choices that move you towards your financial goals.
I completely agree. That mindset shift can be incredibly empowering, especially when you're facing financial challenges. It's about focusing on what you can control and taking action, even if those actions seem small.
And remember, building wealth is not just about accumulating money, it's about achieving financial freedom and living a life that aligns with your values.
That's a powerful reminder. It's not just about the numbers, it's about what those numbers allow you to do and the life they enable you to create. So as we wrap up this deep dive into smart saving and investing on a low salary, what final thought would you leave our listeners with?
I'd encourage them to reflect on their own relationship with money. What beliefs and habits are holding them back? What small step can they take today to shift their mindset and move closer to their financial goals? Remember, even the smallest action can have a ripple effect over time.
That's a great call to action. It's about taking ownership of your financial journey, one step at a time. Thanks so much for guiding us through this deep dive. I feel inspired and ready to put some of these strategies into action.
It's been a pleasure unpacking these valuable insights with you.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked some new ideas and motivated you to take control of your financial well-being. Remember, building wealth is a journey, not a destination. It's about progress, not perfection.
And it's a journey you don't have to take alone. There are resources, communities, and experts ready to support you every step of the way.
So embrace the challenge, celebrate the small wins, and keep moving forward. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to pique your curiosity. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.
They suggested opening a separate bank account specifically for your side hustle. This way you can clearly see how much money you're bringing in and how you're spending it. Plus, it can also simplify tax time.
That's a smart move. Keeps everything organized and makes it easier to track your progress.
It sounds like John and Emily covered a lot of ground in this episode, from mindset shifts to practical tips for saving and investing to even the ins and outs of side hustles. Did they offer any sort of overarching advice for navigating the whole journey of building wealth on a lower income?
Well, they emphasize that building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about patience, consistency, and making choices that align with your long-term goals.
So don't get discouraged by slow progress or compare your journey to others. Stay focused on your own path.
Exactly. And they also reminded listeners that they don't have to figure it all out on their own. Resources like financial advisors, online communities, and even educational podcasts like the one we're dissecting right now can provide really valuable support and guidance.
That's a great point. There's a wealth of information and support available for those who are willing to seek it out. Okay, so we've covered the key takeaways from John and Emily's episode. What stands out to you as maybe the most valuable piece of advice? For me, it's their emphasis on shifting from a scarcity mindset to one of opportunity. That mental shift is really fundamental to building wealth, regardless of your income level. It's about recognizing your power to make choices that move you towards your financial goals.
I totally agree that mindset shift can be so incredibly empowering, especially when you're facing financial challenges. It's about focusing on what you can control and taking action, even if those actions seem small.
And remember, building wealth isn't just about accumulating money, it's about achieving financial freedom and living a life that aligns with your values.
That's a really powerful reminder. It's not just about the numbers, it's about what those numbers allow you to do and the life they enable you to create. So as we wrap up this deep dive into smart saving and investing on a low salary, what final thought would you leave our listeners with?
I would encourage them to reflect on their own personal relationship with money. What beliefs, maybe even habits, are holding them back? What small step can they take today to shift their mindset and move closer to their financial goals? And remember, even the smallest action can have a ripple effect over time.
That's such a great call to action. It's about taking ownership of your financial journey, one step at a time. Thanks so much for guiding us through this deep dive. I feel really inspired and ready to put some of these strategies into action.
It's been my pleasure unpacking these valuable insights with you.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked some new ideas and motivated you to really take control of your financial well-being. Remember, building wealth is a journey, not a destination. It's about progress, not perfection.
And it's a journey you don't have to take alone. There are resources, communities, and experts ready to support you every step of the way.
So embrace the challenge, celebrate the small wins, and just keep moving forward. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to pique your curiosity. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.